seats so we can get started. Good evening again. I am Council Vice President Darcella Sessoms, and I want to welcome you to our town hall meeting in the 2nd Ward this evening. So glad to have each and every one of you here. This is your meeting, and so we're glad that you are spending your evening here to address concerns, to hear about the vision of the city moving forward. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the council persons that are in the room. First, our Council President, Steve Gary Hockaday. Councilman Charles McCray from the 3rd Ward. Councilman Robert Graham from the 1st Ward. I also want to acknowledge our Assemblywoman, the Wonder Woman, Linda Carter in the back. And are there any other elected officials in the room? Okay, I just didn't want to overlook anyone. At this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to our mayor, the Honorable Adrian O'Mapp, and he will introduce his administration.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this town hall meeting. We have been having these meetings around the city in each ward, and we will continue to do so. The next one that will follow this will be in the 3rd Ward, and that will be about a month or so from now. But in the meantime, we want to get started. In the past, we had members of the cabinet giving presentations that lasted for 5 or 7 minutes or so. We're going to not do that this evening. I am going to ask our team members to just give a brief introduction of themselves, and I will then come back and give an overview of, some of the items that I believe we will be touching on this evening, but we're here to answer all of your questions. And I will start the introduction from my left with the business administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. My name is Abby Levinson. I'm the business administrator. I'm also the HR director, so if you have any questions about employment, I'm happy to answer those as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Abney. I'm the police director for the city of Plainfield.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenneth Childress, and I'm the director of the fire department.
Good evening, I'm Zenobia Fields. I'm the director of economic development.
John Louise, director of solid waste and sewer utilities.
Good evening, everyone. OK Daffy, director of Department of Public Works.
And we deliberately tried to keep introductions very brief because we want you to have most of the time. But we know that there's been a lot of things happening in the city over the last several years, and economic development has been a great driver of the things that have happened in the city. We have transformed our recreational spaces. Every park in the city has been invested in. Our Rushmore Recreational Complex has seen about $12 billion worth of investments over the past 4 or so years. We have invested in Mill Campbell Park. We've invested in Hannah Atkins. We have put a lot of money into recreation. And I am sure Zenobia will touch on the main recreation facility that we are still working on. It's going to be the largest investment in recreation in the city's history, and that is the Recreational Center of Excellence across the street from City Hall. We have worked very hard on making Plainfield a place that is inviting to those that are in Plainfield and those that are outside of Plainfield. We've done that by aggressively addressing the issue of crime, making Plainfield a place that is safe, and the perception of crime. We have dealt with that, and we have actually delivered, and we made Plainfield a very safe city for everyone. In terms of infrastructure, we've invested in our roads. We've rebuilt, repaved, resurfaced our roads, and that cost us millions of dollars. With the exception of Front Street, known as Route 28, which is a state highway, we have not used any taxpayer dollars to rebuild that highway, but we have resurfaced that, sidewalks, intersections, curbs, from our border with Denellen all the way up to Plainfield Avenue, and that continues. In terms of public safety, I'll touch on that a little. I am sure that when questions are raised, Director Dabney will be able to respond. And we have also put a lot of money in making the city a city of the future. We've invested millions of dollars in providing Wi-Fi in all of our parks. And the next phase of that will be to make sure that there's Wi-Fi in every home in the city of Plainfield, so that in times of emergency, there wouldn't be an issue people connecting. So students, those who families are not able to afford Wi-Fi in their homes, we're going to provide free Wi-Fi in every home in the city of Plainfield. The current project, which is in phase 2, will have a public safety component where there'll be weapons detection in the cameras that will be installed across the city of Plainfield. We are serious about historic preservation, and we have done that with the PPAC, which is a place where people come each and every week for the many cultural activities that are there at the PPAC. But we have also focused on preservation as it relates to the former YMCA, which is going to be the Recreational Center of Excellence. So there's a plethora of things that we have done, that we have accomplished in terms of economic redevelopment by generating roughly $4 million in revenues. That has led to the stabilization of our taxes year after year. And so there's a lot that we've accomplished, a lot more that needs to be done. And all of that has been made possible with the great administrative team that we have in place, but also with the support, with the partnership of the governing body, because none of these things would be possible without a governing body that is working with the administration. And so we have done this work together, and we can assure you that there's more that needs to be done and will be done by this team with the support of the governing body, and we look forward to a very robust conversation. You can ask any questions. We will provide you with the answers. And if you don't have the answer this evening, I can assure you that we will get back to you with an answer. And so at this time, I would like to open up the floor. We have individuals with microphones. Okay, where are you? And they will be coming to you. Raise your hands and they'll be coming to you. They'll be holding the mic so that we have control over the mic.
Mayor, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and acknowledge Councilwoman Julian Cherry has entered into the building, Councilwoman of the 1st and 4th Ward. And I also would like to acknowledge our County Commissioner, Rebecca Williams-Susan. Thank you for joining us.
First question.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Russell Allen. I asked to speak first because I just turned 80 in September, and I have some black-eyed peas, cornbread, and baked chicken at home. I'm trying to get that. Okay? Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
While I can appreciate that you're inundated with a number of things that you have going on in the city of Plainfield, I lived here for close to 50 years. I've seen this city go from something absolutely beautiful, no fault of yours, to so much changes and not for the good. For example, a lot of stores with all this garbage on the windows. What is that about? Then there's this property across from the playground on the side of the field. I don't know how it's still tenant. I see people going in there, coming out, staying there, coming out. And then there's a house right down the street from there on the corner of North Ave. The same thing. Then you have this one over here on Berkman Street. Berkman and Fifth. Now, I can say these things because I'm a doer. I lived on St. Mary's Avenue for 23 years. When I moved there, the backyard looked like the city dump. I took that backyard from that dump, 114 bags of garbage later, to the front page of the Courier News some years ago. So I can certainly talk about these things. I can appreciate the fact that you have certainly accomplished many, many things in this city. But there's still a lot of loose ends. At the present time, I live at 729 3rd Street. Beautiful house, clean street. But down the street, across from that little red brick school, right there on the 3rd Street side, all kinds of stuff is being transacted there. However, to the Director Danny, there is a policeman that I know was you before I came there that sits in the parking lot, feel very safe. But then they be doing different things. Like I said, I'm 80 and I know, I grew up in Newark, so I know what hookups and, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff is. So I thank you for your time. I hope that what I've shared with you will be of some help to you and helping you and your colleagues to make our town just a little better, cleaning up some of these properties. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for gracing us with your presence at the age of 80. We appreciate you being here, and we thank you for all of your comments, and we will take action on some of the many things that you have raised. And I'll be the first to admit that the work is not yet done. We still have a lot of work to do. I've been in the city for 46 years, and we've come a long way, but there's still work that needs to be done. And I appreciate you bringing some of those things to our attention. Thank you.
And I have to stay busy. So I'm at 729 3rd Street.
729 Eastern. Okay. I appreciate that. And next time you should bring us some of those black eyed peas. Thank you.
Hi. I wanted to know, what are you said historic preservation is one of your priorities, but we have such a terrible time at code enforcement, especially people doing work and replacing windows and things on the weekend, and we have a really hard time getting stop work orders. And also another thing I want to address is the garbage. I was hoping when PMUA was dissolved that the garbage issue would get better, but our streets are still really, really dirty. Like dirtier than Jersey City streets and Newark streets. And that shouldn't be. Like even, I applaud the garbage, the people who pick up the garbage, but if something drops, they leave it in the street. And then it blows all over the place and it makes our neighborhoods look so bad. So what is the plan for those things?
Well, thank you for the question. I'm going to ask Director Fields in terms of court enforcement and Director Joan Louise in terms of the garbage situation that you have brought to our attention. But before they answer, I would just like to say this, that we need the help and support of the community. And oftentimes, you're driving down a street and you see people just tossing stuff out of their windows. And those are people who live in the city of Plainfield. So this is the responsibility of all of us. But to the extent that it's there, then we have a responsibility to make sure that we collect garbage on our roadways across the city. And I will let our director deal with that. But we'll start with Director Fields on the court enforcement question that you raised.
In terms of code enforcement, if we get an address, we will send someone out to do an inspection to see if someone is operating without a permit. If they're operating without a permit, it can carry a hefty fine up to $1,500 per day.
Cool. So we use the app, the reported app. And I know myself and several of our neighbors, we live in Crescent Historic District, like even last weekend, we reported a house, but we never know what happens because the windows are still there. There's no stop work order on any of the buildings. We report on a regular basis. We use that app religiously, and it just doesn't seem like they're ever addressed. So, like, how often are people checking the app or actually going out there to see? Because a lot of times this work is happening on Saturdays and Sundays, and there's no one working 9 to 5, they're doing the illegal work on the weekends.
So we are looking at the hours of operation, but I will say we do check it on a daily basis. It goes directly to either our zoning officer or it goes to the inspection office, which is the code enforcement. After this, I can give you my email. You can choose on your emails to email me directly with the address and we'll send them out.
And before he continues, please, when you ask questions, please state your name and your address.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Jen Florencio, 816 3rd Place.
And I would also add, you can copy your council person as well. So
You and I have emailed about parking on lawns.
I'll just address the litter issue. Since we took over the PMUA, we made tremendous gains in our scheduling and our overall service. Now, are we perfect? Absolutely not. I'm out there every day. I see a lot of friendly faces in the audience, so they know my commitment and my dedication to whatever job I'm tasked with. But again, we're not perfect. If you see any of that kind of activity, I'll give you my cell number right now. You can write it down. It's 908. 908-966-1787. I've had that for about 31 years. You can call me and I will return your call.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It's 908-966-1787. But again, I'm out there, but we definitely we made a lot of tremendous improvements. But we're not perfect, and we'll address that if, in fact, we have an employee that has that needs to be trained a little bit more. We'll definitely, do that.
Well, I'm just talking about the general litter. Like, we live close to downtown, and there's garbage, and for years, we've tried to campaign to get trash cans because we're so close to the high school, and where people walk. Like, even in the morning when I walk through Library Park, there's like school lunches, like thrown around the park. Like there's garbage blowing everywhere down by the library in Crescent Avenue. It's horrible.
Litter is an issue. It has been my whole career. We do everything we can to come up with creative ways. We have summer programs. We just purchased a small ATV vehicle that you'll start to see that back on the road now that the weather has improved. That we're out there, but I can tell you firsthand, as the mayor mentioned, I'll do streets that I personally was out there as well. And if you went an hour later, you would question my honesty if I told you I did it. So we need to not only pick up the litter, which we're trying our best, but we need help from the public. And also we need people to understand that they need to clean up after themselves. And that message is not with a lot, and it's aggravating, and it's very, very disappointing when you do a good job, and then an hour later it's like, what happened? But that doesn't keep us, we're still motivated to come up with creative ways. Director Dabney's out there, you've got the street sweepers out there. Now that we're under one umbrella, meaning utilities and public works, we're constantly coming up with ways to work together to try to improve, like when he's out with his sweepers, his roads mechanical sweepers, we have sidewalk guys going down, we're blowing, so we're doing everything we can to do the best we can.
How about more public garbage cans, especially in
Garbage.
high traffic areas? And I know you thought this, but Jersey City cleaned up their entire city with the Stop the Drop campaign. And I can tell you, I pick up at least 10 little bags of chips from the kids walking back and forth. I have to clean the front of my house every single day. It's almost an entire bag of garbage because of just the kids going back and forth. So start in the schools and put public garbage cans where there's high traffic areas.
I can tell you that public cans sometimes create more garbage, because what happens is, this is just my experience. I know you said Jersey City's cleaned up, but the cans, a lot of times people overfill them, and then you get the wind coming and blowing it around. There are cans strategically placed. If you think there's a spot that we need to put one, I'll be more than glad to consider that. But sometimes it creates more because people see the can, and they have poor habits, and they'll put a big garbage bag in there, and then other kids throw things on top, and then the wind comes because we didn't get there at that moment, and it blows the litter out into the street, so sometimes it creates more of an issue, as well as sometimes items are placed that shouldn't be placed there. But we'll definitely look into your concerns.
Okay, next question, please.
Yeah, John Berkeley, 1115 Lorraine Avenue. 3 quick questions. First, I noticed there's a number of street signs that are down, and they've been down for quite a while. I was just wondering, is there any plan to put them back up, and any idea of why are they down? No, particularly going down Pemberton Street. There's a number of street signs that are down. Secondly, along Woodland Avenue, coming into Plainfield, off of Maple, the side of the road is very chopped up, and particularly during some kind of weather when you trying to drive not towards the middle but towards the side, it's kind of hazardous. And I was wondering if there's any plan to fill that up. And lastly, I know Fine Fair on South Avenue is closing down, and there's a lot of development on South Avenue, a lot of housing development on South Avenue. I was wondering, is there any update on the plan to replace Fine Fair with another supermarket?
So I will let the team handle most of the questions, but the comment that I will make about your reference to coming from Maple Avenue in Edison on Woodland Avenue. Not too long ago, we resurfaced the entire stretch of Woodland Avenue from, I believe, from South Avenue to our border with South Plainfield and Edison. So I am not sure if you were speaking about a roadway in Plainfield as opposed to a roadway in Edison. And I'll ask the team to address the other questions.
What's your the other question?
The street signs being down around the city, is there any reason why they're down? Kids knocking them down, and is there any plan to replace them? And also the Fine Fair supermarket, is there an update on replacing that with another market?
Well, I'll address the street signs. Most of the street signs and traffic signs, yes, anywhere they're down, we like someone to give us a call and let us know. But they do go back up. Sometimes when roads are being paved and we're doing curbing and sidewalks, they have to come down, but they do go back up. So anywhere you're saying along Pemberton Avenue, or wherever it may be, you can just get the information to your lady in the back, all the streets. We'll make sure they go up. That's our job. We do that every day. We go around checking the street signs, traffic signs, etc., and maybe down and replacing them. So that's part of the plan we're doing in the city of Plainfield. So we'll address any issues you may have with that, okay? And she'll give you information, our phone numbers, etc., so we can address those issues. With any type of signs, street signs and traffic signs.
Supermarkets.
Sure, as far as the Fine Fair and the supermarket, We are actively working with the property owner there as well as some of our other realtors to try to attract either another supermarket or a farmer's market to go in that location in the interim. That location is coming up for development, but the interest is to make sure that we still have a supermarket or a farmer's market in that.
Hi, Rich Sudol, 313 Franklin Place, Plainfield. First, I wanted to make a comment on the street sweeping. I know in Crescent, as you mentioned, we have a lot of trash and everything. We got one side of the parking years ago, one side of the street parking. But the problem now is that cars are all parked on one side of the street, so the street sweeper comes through often, but only gets half the road. So perhaps maybe one day a month that it's alternate side, so the street sweeper could come in and do a good job cleaning the streets. My other question was with they're doing, PSE&G is doing a lot of replacement of gas lines, like through the neighborhood. I know they're putting down like temporary patches. Is that a permanent solution, or is there plans to go back and repave those through either the city or PSE&G? And then my last point is, this may be unpopular, but is there any plans to do anything with the deer population, which seems to, I know they have the deer hunts, and it seems to increase every year, but it just seems every year there's more and more deer, and there's less and less space. So I don't know if there's any further plans to help reduce that population a little bit.
On your last question about the deer, that continues to be an issue for all of us in the city. Their population continues to increase year after year. I personally had to enclose my property so that my grandkids are able to romp on my grass and so that I can grow some vegetables and so on. And that's the issue that so many of us as homeowners have in the city. The city doesn't have their culling program, but the county does. And for some it's controversial. The county has a deer program where they use bow arrows in the winter months, and they do it in county parks. And that is what has been done. Beyond that, I am not aware of any other program, but the city itself doesn't have a program. Concerning the parking on Crescent, that's something that we can definitely look into, not only for Crescent, but for some of the other streets where that might be an issue, to consider alternate side of the street parking. So, yes, so we took note of that, and it is something that we will consider and have a discussion with the governing body. And there was something else you had.
Curb.
Oh, PSG, you want to address that, Director? Go ahead.
Yes, for PSG, that's a good question. And that's something we were hard on, making sure the streets are done, resurfaced. So right now, my engineers are in talk with public service so we can address the issues of those streets that were torn open, close them back up. We're going to go curb to curb and curb the center line in a lot of those streets that warrant that, based on the size of the cutout. So we're looking at all of that across the city. That's not only public service, that's with American Water as well. So we're addressing a rollout utility companies to ensure that all streets are done. Whether starting to break, so we're putting all the plans together, they're getting their contracts together, and I'm engineers so we can take care of what needs to be done. Okay, so all the streets that are like that, we're doing them in phases, get everything done. Nothing's going to be left just to put a patch job. We're going to make sure it's done right.
And these utility cuts are unnecessary evil. In the case of the water company, the lead lines have to be replaced, and they've been doing that all across the city. So roads that we have paved no longer than 2 or 3 years ago have been torn up as a result of the utility work that is absolutely necessary. But we are holding the utility company's feet to the fire, as the director said, either pave from center line to curb or from curb to curb. Because we've invested millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars resurfacing miles and miles of roadway, and several of them have been dug up for good reason. So we have to make sure that they're returning to their previous state, and that will happen.
And I just want to add that we codified that via ordinance within the past 12 months. So we worked with the council and they passed an ordinance to ensure that anybody who comes in and does work on our streets has to repave it, either curb to curb or curb to center line. So legally they have to do that now.
Is there a timeline for it, or?
It passed, is there a timeline for how quickly they have to do it? It's not, the ordinance doesn't have a timeline in it, but they typically want to do as much as they can at one time, so they obviously, they'll do a whole area and then come back and do the paving.
And just to further add to that, what happens is we make sure there's enough streets in an area, because to get a contractor to come in and do one street, they don't do it that way, they try to do it in a group of locations, so that's what happens with that. So yes, once we get a group, there is a timeline from that point, yes.
Good evening, Matt Rice, 970 Hillside Avenue. 3 questions. What kind of business are we trying to attract to the city? Number 2, how do we improve home ownership? And number 3, how to provide more affordable housing?
All of that is in the hands of Zenobia Fields.
So in terms of attracting businesses to the city, we are looking for, now that we have several of our developments going, we have over $1 billion in development, but in some of our commercial spaces, we're really looking to fill those commercial spaces as well as work on our small business owners. So we are looking to attract more diversity in restaurants. We are looking to attract more service industries. We are looking at supermarkets and other entertainment things. To do this, we've conducted a market analysis to tell us what industries we should be investing in, and we also have contracted with a retail recruiter to help us attract national anchors to the city. In terms of helping home ownership, I believe that was your second question. What we are doing with that, we've invested in a number of developments that focus on single-family homes, townhomes, as well as 2-family homes for sale. So, for example, within the 2nd Ward, we're going to be building 14 affordable townhomes for sale. And with those 14 affordable townhomes for sale, since they're going to be built on property that is owned by the city, we have partnered with the developer that instead of receiving all the necessary benefits from the sale of the property, we're going to be investing in a down payment assistance fund for Plainfield residents. So for first-time home buyers that are Plainfield residents, they will be receiving down payment assistance. Then in terms of affordable housing, the mayor set a goal last September, or the September before last, of looking at 1,000 affordable units by 2029. So we can say that we have over 800 affordable units under contract right now, so we are well towards that goal. What we are going to see coming to the 2nd Ward, that's going to be located behind the YMCA, we're going to see 250 affordable units coming there. That 250 affordable units, they're going to range in price from $600 for a studio on to a little over $1,800 for a 3-bed.
Judge, can you elaborate a little bit more? You talked about the retail company that's helping to shape what entertainment and retail industries that we would bring into the city. How can residents become a part of that? How can they share their input and their concern about what they would like to see in terms of entertainment in our city? This was not playing. Over on this side, because I didn't have enough to sit over there. But what you're going to see, this is a survey for urban enterprise zone. In our urban enterprise zone, this is considered our opportunity zone. So you're able to tell us what you would like to see in our downtown area, what you would like to see happen along South Avenue, in a main corridor. So if you could tell us there what you want type of businesses you would like to see us attract, if you want to see things like a shuttle, what you want in terms of restaurants, beautification, that's what we're looking for input on.
When we have our retail recruiters, there's gonna be other opportunities that we're gonna come out and also do different charrettes and information centers for that. Thank you, Director.
And Director, can you also expand on, you mentioned for sale townhomes in the second ward. Can you talk about where those homes are going to be located and what kind of assistance the city will be providing?
So the for sale townhomes are located along South Avenue, 520 South Avenue. That's right across from the E. Paul building. In terms of down payment assistance, it's going to be a total of at least $30,000 in a down payment assistance per home. So we expect these homes to be under $500,000. They'll range in price between $450,000 and $490,000. And the down payment assistance, again, it's going to be at least $30,000 that's going to be available. We are also looking to partner with HMFA as well as other things for others.
And that's the down payment assistance is for Plainfield residents.
Yes, you will have to prove that you are a Plainfield resident and it's for first time buyer.
Next question, please.
Hello, I'm Robin, 129 Leaf Terrace. My question is about rent stabilization. While I own a home, I was concerned with the drastic amount that rent went up. I have family members and friends that live in apartments on Front Street. They went anywhere from $800 to $1,000 because they used the area rent to increase, and I think that rent stabilization should have been something done prior to agreeing to those new properties being built. I'm just concerned about homelessness in Plainfield. Also, with the economy and the direction it's going, is a property tax freeze something that we consider if we go into a recession? I also have questions about zoning because I'm interested in putting something in my backyard and I just want to know who to talk to. You mentioned business grants, also who to contact for that. Yep, there we go.
Well, you hit us with a lot of things. So we're going to start with
Okay. So I'm going to answer rent control and the property tax question, and then I'm going to pass it on. We'll take it piecemeal. So in terms of rent control, we have the same concerns as you, which is why we crafted an ordinance. However, what you're saying about the new apartments being built, statutorily in New Jersey, rent control would not impact those buildings because for 30 years, from either the length of your mortgage or 30 years, you are exempt. And so it wouldn't hit those buildings anyway, which is why what we're doing now, we put forward an ordinance, but it exempts many of the buildings that people are concerned about. So what we're doing now is we're working with DCA, who is the organizer of this statute for the state, to see if we could do anything about that exemption, because essentially that exemption is going to make this ordinance not as impactful as our intent. So we are working with DCA to see what can be done about that. It is an issue. We're definitely aware that older buildings are using newer buildings' rents to create their rents, but we want to make sure that the ordinance is going to have the impact that we desire it to have. And with this exemption, it's very problematic. In terms of the property tax, both 2020 and 2021, I believe, were negative years on the municipal side. But you have to remember that when you get your bill, it's not, you're getting a bill that is made up of the municipal side, the school side, and the county. So, we can do what we can do, but there's obviously two variables we can't control. So I believe we had 2 years of negative, and then we had 2 years in the twos. We're crafting our budget right now. We're, of course, looking for, somewhere in between negative and 2, which has been our pattern. And I can tell you we are as lean as possible. And we're very well aware that of what the financial situation is that's current and that's coming, and we are thoughtful of that in everything that we do for the budget.
So, if I may add, in terms of that budget, answer that you just got by negative, the business administrator is simply saying that taxes actually were decreased for 2 years and stabilized for the last 2 years. And so we have really been very conscious about property taxes and the need for us to keep property taxes stable. And that has been a commitment, and a lot of that was made possible as a result of the pilot revenues that are being generated from these economic redevelopment projects. And so our goal is to continue the stabilization of taxes as we've done for the last 4 years. There were other parts of your
As far as zoning, you go to 508 Watchon Avenue and you ask for the zoning officer there. So anytime you want to do anything from a fence to an addition, you always start with the zoning. In terms of the business assistance, if you come over to Economic Development, which is in City Hall, 515 Watchon Avenue, room 206, we'll be able to help you there. But if you go to our website, on our website there is a link, if you click on Economic Development, that says Business Assistance, and it talks about anything from what we offer to UEZ grant, sign a facade program, to also where we partner with the New Jersey Economic Development Administration, that they offer small business lease assistance. So depending on what you're looking for, start there and you can come in and talk to us about it.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Annette Long from 1330 Randolph Road, and I'm a resident of the Randolph. And my question, the mayor probably might remember me from last year at the Senior Citizen Center. I had a question about transparency about this rehab center that's going to be on the premises of the Randolph. And now I understand additionally there's going to be a charter school. So can you give some transparency on that and bring us up to date on what's going on in our facility?
So I will chime in as well as our economic development director. There should be total transparency as far as what's been happening at the Muhlenberg campus is concerned. Rutgers has acquired one of the buildings on the campus. Rutgers is exempt from local zoning, and there is a medical facility there that takes care of people with substance abuse issues, people who have some issues in terms of mental, stability and things of that sort. All things that are desperately needed, whether you're talking about in Plainfield or in any community, USA. We have people that have some mental health crises that need treatment, need to be taken care of, as well as other people who might have substance abuse issues. And Rutgers, a state institution, thought it a good idea to establish a facility which they were exempt from our local zoning, and that facility is at the Muhlenberg campus, operating with no issues as far as we know. Nothing has been brought to our attention, but that's a healthcare facility, and it's been dispensing healthcare from all that I've known and I've seen in a very effective manner, taking care of people who have those needs. In terms of the other part about, I think you mentioned charter school, right?
Yes.
We will respond to that as well.
So behind the Randolph, if you recall, over where the old Muhlenberg emergency room area, there's still about 100 to 140 square feet that haven't been developed. So behind you, there's a 5,000, there's an ambulatory surgical center there where they perform surgeries. There's several doctor's offices in there. Recently, there's been a partnership between the city of Plainfield Kane University and College of Chief to have a health profession center developed there. That health profession center is going to start where the old emergency room entrance is. So it's going to be on the first floor. It's also going to go up to part of the second floor, and they're looking at if they're going to occupy any parts of the basement. But it's going to have, in terms of College of Chief, it's going to be K through 12 education. That's going to focus on the healthcare professions, and then also post-secondary. Post-secondary education is going to be hosted by Kane University. We're also looking, and this is something that came out of one of our market analysis, is that that's a health complex. We are also in need of an additional urgent care, so there will be an additional urgent care facility.
Hi, Harry Lewis, former Plainfield resident for 20 years, left and found out that I was a place where I could come back, and I went back. So I'm also at Randolph. Just for clarity for me, the section that where the emergency room is now is down the hill. I call it down the hill because there's separation. And are you saying that the part that's going to be taking care of the rehab part, that's the other building that's down on that side? So College of Chief would be the back side of the Randolph where the old emergency room was that's attached to the building?
Yes. So, and also starting at where you know the columns and the shape there too, so that part of the building on that.
Okay, so that's a College of Chief, which is great, teaching here. And that's the, then you also said something else. College of Chief, the partnership with Team.
Kane University.
Okay, so that, basically, that part of the building is educational. Someone said something else about a second
urgent care, yes.
Where would that be?
So the urgent care facility, I don't have the floor plans, they're working out the location, but those three entities will be in that building.
Will be in the Randolph building, but the back side will probably not be called the Randolph.
Right.
Thank you.
Before we continue with the questions from the audience, we'll go to one from online.
Okay. Good evening. Addressing the ongoing issue with speeding in Plainfield. First, thank you for your attention to my emails and attentiveness to adding one speed bump to Sherman Avenue. More to that question?
Director, Adam?
I'm not sure what the.
I think she wants you to just speak.
Talk about speeding in general? Okay. Yeah, this year, just like last year, we have the police department has been laser focused on speeding and traffic enforcement in the city. As you see, we have put up numerous stop signs, speed bumps, and we have also increased traffic enforcement. We are continuing to do that. We have everybody trained, and I've mentioned this at other meetings. We have a zero tolerance for speeding within the city currently. If you look around, we have also used grant funding that we've gotten over the last several years to put up permanent radar speed signs in the city. One is actually up on East 3rd Street now, one is up on Pemberton Avenue, one will be going on West 4th Street, one will be going on Plainfield Avenue, and there are several other locations in the city, Belvedere, where we are putting these radar speed signs. So we are actually, it's a problem that we have to attack on several different levels. That's why you see the stop signs, the speed humps, and the traffic enforcement. We have been working hard at it. It's a work in progress. You will see more results as this year goes on, as these speed signs go up. But we have been tackling it like every other crime or any other situation in the city head on. We're not making any excuses. We're going out there, we're doing the work. If people complain about areas, we're going to do everything we can to go to those areas and address those situations in those areas. So I welcome you to call the police department if you have speeding or any other problems within your part of the city, so that we can understand where we need to deploy resources outside of some of the other things that we are doing. And I hope that answers the question.
Director, can you just explain for the residents, what is the procedure when residents on a particular street want a speed bump? What are those procedures?
Well, that's the speed bump part of it is really Director Dabney's forte, so I'll let him explain.
Right. So that's a good question. Speed humps, when we do speed humps, we do a traffic study. There's analysis done to see that is a warranted speed hump before we place them. But we do check with traffic data, et cetera, that we receive to see if that's something that's needed. Currently, in the city of Plainfield, we have over 60 speed humps. And we're scheduled to put, coming this summer, another 24 in different areas of the city. So we're addressing, this is one of the best traffic calming measures we can take, put out there, in addition to the four-way stops that are out there right now. So anyone that's looking for that, that's something you can just call us, give us some information, we'll write it down, and we'll assess to see if it warrants a speed hump. So we done our traffic study. But we try to get quite a few roads when we do that, because when they come into the study, you want to have like 4 or 5 roads or better to show that why it warrants that. But we do study every which way to make sure if speed humps needed, we'll put it there. Sometimes we extend what speed humps have to be, so we take that very seriously. And again, it's a major traffic calming measure that we try to put in place to address that, again, along with four-way stops. We work in terms of the police department to address everything. The mayor takes it very seriously to make sure that we want to make sure we address the speeding issues across the city. We know we try to do what we can with those with bad habits, right? But we're doing everything we can to make the city safe with speed humps, traffic, four-way traffic signs, etc. Working in conjunction with the police department.
And if I can add on to that, with the four-way stop signs, I believe the police department gets a great deal of complaints about intersections and requesting four-way stop signs at those intersections. What we do after that is we conduct a traffic study, we look at accidents at those intersections over the last 3 to 4 years. Based on that study, we will make determinations if we are going to put four-way stop signs there, or maybe if we're going to try something else. If it's a county roadway, we may work with the county to try to put traffic light there. There are several ways that we combat these different things, but they seem to have been quite effective. But like I said, it's still a work in progress. We still have work to do, but rest assured, we are working on it. Thank you.
And to add to that, I'm sorry, because this traffic is a major issue what's going on. We have a safe street / road that we're doing. It's a federal grant that we have. We got a $400,000 grant. We got to match it by 20%, $100,000. But it's going to measure everything going on with all our intersections across the city. It's going to be great for us, because it's going to touch on everything, intersections, etc., to improve everything, the lighting, everything, all intersections, to prevent any fatalities in the area. That's what we're trying to do. And there's going to be major funding involved with this to address all those issues. There's a major grant, federal grant funding that we are dealing with right now to do everything. We're putting a major action plan together to address all of that, in addition to everything we're currently doing. So we're taking this very seriously, across the city to make things better.
And that's one of the important things about this administration. It's very easy to work with everybody up here. I tell people all the time, Dabney and Abney is a 1-2 punch. If we're looking to try to do things in terms of traffic or other problems in the city, either you contact his office or you contact my office, and we work to get those things done. Thank you.
Let's see if we have any other questions online.
Okay, we do. Thank you for the empty police car on Bradford. People are still running the signs, we need more police presence. And the other one is, what is the city doing about over-the-curb parking? Taxi cabs making illegal U-turns on any street in the city with traffic.
Okay, those are matters for me. As people know, my traffic unit has been bolstered. We have a 7-day-a-week traffic unit as opposed to what we have had in the past. We're out there looking for issues such as this. Once again, four-way stop signs work if people are willing to obey them. What we do is if we get complaints like this on Bradford plates, I'll put it on our car out there so people are running the stop sign and they'll start getting tickets. And we do that to make sure that everybody begins to comply with whatever is going on in those intersections. But like anything else, you always have bad actors. Just because we put up signs doesn't mean that everybody is going to obey them. So with practice and with us keep enforcing the laws, we will make that difference. In terms of taxis making U-turns and things of that nature, those are issues that we can only address if we're Johnny on the spot. By the time we get to somewhere and somebody is doing that, once again, it's a bad actor, and we will work as best as we can to address those issues. I have a lot of cops in the downtown area. The downtown area has been a major focus other police department. Mayor gave me a need to make sure that I take care of the downtown area, and I'm very serious about it. So any violations or any things that you see, please report them, and we will work our hardest to get it taken care of. Thank you.
We'll go back to the audience.
Hello, my name is Agnes McLean. I live at 1601 Watchung Avenue. I would like, first of all, I'd like to say this is a great idea to have a meeting in the ward, so I'm appreciative of that. I'd also like to thank the city for placing the speed bumps and stop signs on Watchung between Terrell and Woodland. It's cut down on the accidents, it's cut down on the speeding. I feel a lot safer. I'd like to ask a question. I don't know if this is totally appropriate, but has anyone else noticed the white truck going up and down Watchung? Like it's in a parade with flags that say Chump and the American flag several times a day. I don't feel comfortable. This has been going on for months. It's a white truck, a pickup, several times a day, up and down Watchung.
What time of day is that occurring?
It's not, I can't say
No
it's,
specific time?
I can't say it's a particular time. It's just several times a day sometimes once, and on the weekends. Driving slowly as though it's in a parade, and it's been going on for months.
If you see that truck, I'll consider it to be a suspicious vehicle. If you see that truck and it concerns you, pick up the phone, call the police department. I'll have units in the area respond, and we'll find out what's going on, why this truck feels the need to keep riding up and down Watchung Avenue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, there was a policeman in the community. I was told a couple of years ago that he had been assigned to the area, and I saw him often, and now no more. So I was told that there was some sort of initiative. I felt so safe when I would look out and see the police car or see the policeman get out of his car. He was someone who grew up in town and was very friendly, so I wonder what happened to that initiative. Also, I'd like to hear more about the project, the proposed project with the farm. And then my last question is, I'm a senior citizen, semi-retired, pay a heck of a lot of money in taxes, as those of you who are homeowners know. What am I getting for my taxes? Work with me, I'm a senior citizen. Thank you.
I'll start with the question I can answer. In terms of the police officer that was in the area, that was one of the detectives in COP. He will be back out in that area. He's been assigned to the downtown for quite some time. I will be deploying more people in that area just to make you feel comfortable, but rest assured, even though you may not see police officers out walking around, they do patrol every area of the city. They ride throughout the entire city every day. There are officers in marked and unmarked cars, and some who are in uniform and out of uniform. So even if you don't see them, rest assured, we are out there. And I have drones in the air. So.
And in terms of what you're getting for your taxes, we spend a great deal of your money, of all of our money, each and every day to provide services to all of our residents. We have driven down crime by about 52% or thereabout. All violent crimes are down significantly. So we invest in law enforcement, we invest in public safety, we invest in public spaces, and we have transformed all of our parks for the benefit of all age groups. We've also created a cultural gem, I would say, in the city by way of the PPAC, where a lot of our seniors, they go there for exercise classes, they go there to enjoy jazz concerts. We've also invested in our senior center downtown, where we have programs each and every day. So we have done a great deal to provide services to all of our residents so that people know that their dollars are being spent wisely. So I know it might be difficult for any number of individuals to pinpoint one or two or three services where they can say that I have benefited from that. But the entire community benefits from the dollars that we spend each and every day. It is one of the reasons why we have seen a huge uptick in investments in our city. It's one of the reasons why we are attracting people from our neighboring towns who are coming into our city to enjoy what Plainfield has to offer, because we've addressed that issue of safety in our city. And those are some of the ways that we spend your tax dollars. In many other ways, we have been voted a healthy city for 6 years consecutively because we invest in healthcare in our city. You can go to our health department, you can get vaccines, you can get all kinds of health services at our Plainfield Health Department and our Plainfield Action Services. We try to take care of the least among us, those folks who are not able to afford things, that others can. And so we fill that gap. So there's so much that we do to our fire department. Is always there to respond in cases of emergencies. And so the list goes on and on. And so I can assure you that your tax dollars are very well spent. The Peterson Farm, Zenobia.
Sure. The former Peterson Farm, the open space along Cushing Road, we are actually going to have a charrette in this room on March 31st. It's going to be at 7 p.m. We've issued a survey to get input on what the surrounding residents within a half a mile would like to see in that location. So we are going to be presenting the results of that survey. We've heard from about 200 different respondents about what they would like to see, whether you want to see a nature preserve, whether you want to see a community garden, pavilion, walking trails. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what it means in terms of scale and what you would like to see, what it means in terms of operation maintenance and time commitment. So you're welcome to come back on March 31st in this room at 7 p.m.
And please know that there is no preconceived concept for Peterson Farm. It's open, it's why we conducted a survey, it's the reason why we're going to have that charrette to get additional input from the community. So what goes at Peterson Farm is what the community wants. And the results of that survey and the charrette will be forwarded to Union County. And the ultimate decision belongs to the county because it's a county park. And we've spoken to the county manager asking for the presence of representation from the county. And I am sure that our county commissioner who's in the audience, Rebecca Williams, will be present when we have that charrette, as well as someone else from the county. So it's an ongoing project, and we want to deliver the absolute best project for all of the people of Plainfield, especially the people in that neighborhood, which is why we sent out the survey to 1,005 properties that are within a half-mile radius of the Peterson Farm. Next question.
Hi, I'm Dan Rawson, 1220 Watchung. I'd like to continue the conversation around traffic safety as someone who is a frequent pedestrian around this town. I'd like to follow up with something that you said, sir, about speed bumps specifically. There are people that are very much against the four-way stops and the speed bumps. I am not one of those people. They want more enforcement, which I think would also be nice. But my question is, in terms of some of these things like the speed bumps, eventually those things have to be maintained because speed bumps, as cars drive over them, start to flatten out. On Kensington Avenue, there are about 3 or 4 or 5 speed humps there, and they're about as effective as having an anthill in the middle of the street. So how are these maintained so that these are actually worthwhile after a certain amount of time?
Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I didn't know that, but we will look into those speed humps that you're referring to, that you're saying they're in bad shape. But we do make sure we have funds to maintain, because that's what happens. It's like a speed hump. So they do have to be maintained. So we keep so much funding now to have the budget just to address those issues if that does happen. So we do monitor our speed humps to ensure that they're safe. Because what good has happened, right? We don't maintain them. So they're out there, so we will maintain speed humps always. Look at them. So those offenses that you're referring to, we will look into that to see what's going on to address the asphalt issue, to make sure that they're done right.
Could I jump in on that real quick? The speed humps on Kensington Avenue, because of neighborhood complaints, were shaved down. When they were first put in, they were very high. And as the neighbors or the residents complained about those speed humps, they kept being cut down to where they basically are where they are today. So that is the reason for that. Yeah, and I must say this, in terms of speed humps or stop signs, everybody's not going to be a fan. I will say this, the majority of homeowners that I speak to and residents that I speak to in the city are very much in favor of them. They're very much in favor of any type of traffic calming measure, because we want to have a law-abiding town. We want to have people obey the law. We want them to follow the rules of the road. So whatever we have to do to make people follow the rules of the road, we will do that. But I've said this before, speed humps, stop signs, address issues where I can deploy officers other places. We had a 0 homicide rate in this city last year. That hasn't happened here in probably 70 years. I attribute that to all of the things that we do, because it is a joint. It's a joint participation here. Everybody works together, so it helps us solve problems. So whereas I may not put an officer sitting at an intersection, I may have him somewhere on the west end or another part of town addressing another type of crime, but that speed hump or that stop sign is doing the work of an officer by them not being there, by slowing people down, by making them stop, by making them follow the rules of the road. So that's the point that I think people miss sometimes when they talk about the quote-unquote bad side of these stop signs and speed humps. They act as basically as parts of the police department and parts of public works, where we can get things done where I don't have to have officers at all these locations, because these things are taking care of those things for us. It's kind of like the radar signs we're putting up now. Every time somebody sees one of those radar signs and it starts flashing, and you know, I don't have to have a cop there for that. So it works hand in hand is what I'm trying to say.
And by the way, the calls come in every day for them requesting speed humps or four-way stops. We get the calls every day for that. So it's a major traffic calming measure that we address. We're going to continue to address it. Make the city safer, better for everyone. So.
Okay, I'm going to move to an online question. This one is a comment, so I'll do 2. Radar speed signs would be great at the intersection of Field and Randolph. Cars are constantly running those stop signs. So we will take note of that. That was Field and Randolph. And the second question is, what about people leaving trash and recycling cans out 7 days a week with no street cleaning? So I think Director Louise.
Whenever we get, we have inspectors that ride around, and also we get calls from the residents. We will notify the property owner. We also stop over and drop off a schedule, because sometimes an individual may have the collection dates a little mixed up. We want to make sure that they're aware of the actual scheduled dates.
And as to Field and Randolph, I know that we placed a 4-way stop sign there maybe about 1 year, 2 years or so ago, because of the accidents and the complaints that we were having regarding that intersection. And if people are just rolling through that intersection, then I would ask our police director to make sure that we pay close attention, so that those who are not willing to obey the law will receive tickets, and it will would be a contribution not only to our budget, but to public safety.
Yes, sir.
Another question.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeff Spellman from 1151 Gresham. Another famous intersection, Belvedere in East 7th, which I believe is a town road and a county road, is very dangerous for pedestrians. We had a neighbor who was critically injured there, and I was wondering if there's any activities to do traffic calming or light or something there to make that a safer intersection.
To answer
I'm thinking that can't remember off the top of my head, is the pedestrian signs there on 7th Street? I'm trying to remember.
I think there are.
Pedestrian signs are there, but they're not lighted, right?
So this is all going to take place sometime in April.
Yeah.
The county's going to start doing everything to do with that, with those intersections all over there. The 7th and Belvedere is one of them. And they have some plans for that too. It's not going to be a traffic signal, but they're going to do some rumble strips for the sector and everything there, and add some more safety measures for speeding to address all the issues in that intersection. So.
I just wanted to add to that. Yes, the councilwoman contacted me about that, so I spoke to our county engineer, Rick Matias, and specifically about that question that I think you asked. And he told me that indeed he is working with the city, and part of it, the county is going to be doing some timing changes with the light at 7th and Woodland as well, because that might be part of it. And as you mentioned, the rumble strip or the narrowing strips as well. So county works with city. Thank you.
And there's going to be 5 intersections that are addressed in the county in April.
We have some questions over here.
Hi, good evening. Zine Gray, 1131 Dorsey Place, Plainfield, New Jersey. So first I want to say thank you all for having this town hall meeting. I think it's great to hear some of my neighbors' concerns and also just understand sort of what all my neighbors are facing. So I just wanted to opine about the trash collection. I think it's to Mr. John Louise, you're doing a wonderful job. I think the trash collection services have definitely improved. I'm seeing sort of my neighbors sort of respond to it, so I just want to acknowledge that, all the efforts that you put in order to make rural PMUA, the PMMA, all those different changes, seeing a positive impact. But one of the things I wanted to also possibly see is some sort of food waste diversion program, because one of the things my neighbors got that made them very happy about the PMMA bill, in particular, was that they got a 5% reduction. I would like to see that 5% reduction permanent by seeing ways we can divert food waste from the trash and less food waste going to incinerators. That means basically less labor that you're using, less wear and tear maintenance that you're using. So that means looking to see if we can institute permanent 5% or 5 to 8% reductions in the bill for people that use food waste diversion programs. I see it in other towns like Montclair and Jersey City. I would like to possibly see it here in order to save my neighbors more money.
Yeah, one thing I want to just put out there is that we've been focusing on a lot of areas. When we took the PMUA over, there was a lot of operational issues that we had to get right. And I thank you for your comments. One of the areas I focused on with my team was recycling. And I know you're talking about food, but just to put it out there, our recycling numbers since we took over have went up 17%. And that's a big accomplishment because, as you said, whatever we can remove from the waste stream is a plus not only for the environment, but the financial piece. And we're working with the county because the county, we work hand in hand with them on a lot of different initiatives. And there's a lot of things out there, but I want to try to get, for a better word, the lower lying fruit where it was the recycling as far as cardboards and things like that. But there's a lot of things. We just got into recycling cooking oil. And anyone that has cooking oil, a lot of times you have an event at home, you have a large amount of cooking oil. You can bring it to our facility at Rock Ave, 95 Rock Ave, and it's a free service. You can drop it off free of charge. You just tell the gentleman at the gate that you have cooking oil, and there's a bunch of other items that we accept with no charge. But we are looking at not only the recycling oil and things like that, but also the food.
Hi, my name is Thad Baltimore. You guys know me. And I'm just, as a segue to community health, I've raised the issue about electric vehicle charging stations placed throughout the city. I'm gonna possibly probably keep reminding you guys about this. Neighboring townships like Westfield have like 8 of those machines throughout the city, at the train stations, at particular stores. It's an amenity that attracts young professionals to the city. We have a lot of development that's going on in the city. It's getting more dense. There's more traffic, and electric vehicles attract young professionals to the city. So I'm trying to find out if there's any update on the RFP that I know the mayor requested in regards to getting some electric vehicle charging stations for public use placed throughout the city. Can you guys give me an update?
Okay, so thank you that we have not forgotten about you. Definitely we want to consider sustainability. So I'm just going to talk about throughout the city. So with most of our developments, there is a requirement to install an electric charging station. So all of our developments that are built, there is at least 15% for charging stations that are there. What you're talking about is our destinations, looking at our train stations, looking at our downtown Main Street corridors. We are still looking to do that. We are looking at electric vehicle shuttle. We have opted into a program with the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, where they support commercial clean air efforts. So we're going after those grants, working with the developers to get those stations. So identifying those routes, we're still working on it. It is a part of our plan.
Okay, and it's coming through an RFP.
It has to come through an RFP.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I remind you that Westfield and those towns you're referring to did not go through that process. We have to be guided by the local public contracts law.
I totally get that. They got the machines.
Hi, good evening. Wilfred Llewellyn, 1282 Worth Drive. I'd just like to clarify the date for this charrette. The information that actually went out was April 1st, and you mentioned the 31st.
It is March 31st.
I mean, March 31st, but the information that went out said April 1st.
It's going to be, there's going to be a revised flyer. It should have been distributed again. The reason why we changed from April 1st to March 31st is the availability of it.
Just FYI, that if you are going to send out information, we've had issues where a lot of the residents in that area have not been receiving communication. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I've been the one that's been informing a lot of the residents in the area as to the changes that's been taking place. So again, if you can just try to figure out what's going on with these communications that have been going out.
Sure, and I also know that Director Clayton Hunt, there are going to be robocalls. There was a set of robocalls that went out to let them know about the change in the date. But as we get closer to the date, there will be more robocalls specific to the residents that are within the half mile.
So again, just to clarify, it's going to be March 31st, not April 1st.
March 31st in this room at 7 p.m.
Okay. And this room was not available for April 1st.
Let's go to an online question. You're starting to build up. Okay. At the first ward meeting, I asked about an occupancy enforcement within the city. Does the city have a plan to address this issue related to code enforcement?
Okay. In terms of code enforcement and occupancy, if there is an incident, if we have an address, we do go to the location to see if we have an occupancy issue. Then that landlord or property owner can be cited for that.
So we need assistance from residents in order for us to know where these alleged illegal occupancies are occurring, because we don't go around, we don't have the manpower to go to every street, every neighborhood to look for that. But if we receive complaints about illegal occupancy, we will respond.
And what would you call it? Inspection?
So yes, on the website, under economic development, you can either use my email or you can go to inspections, give us the address and say that there's an occupancy issue.
And we'll do that as long as we receive the complaint. But we don't have a policy, we will not have a policy where we selectively go to this neighborhood or that neighborhood, knock on the door, how many people are living in your home? We don't do that, we can't do that. Next question, please.
Good evening, Justin Gentles. Police and fire have done a great job the last couple of years in our community. My question is, who's responsible for emergency medical within the Plainfield, within your administration? Who oversees that and who maintains accountability as far as response times and things of that nature? I just don't know who is over it. Oh, okay.
So our EMS is handled by JFK and also by Union County. They have it even split. They both have contracts that are grant funded within the city, and they both have vehicles here 24/7. We, meaning me, myself, the police director, and the fire director, meet with them, with the leadership teams from both JFK and Union County once a month on a Zoom meeting to go over what that month entailed, if any issues came up. Every week, we get a report that tells how many calls came in, who answered the calls, etc. And every month, we get a big report that has all of the calls, whether they were basic life services, advanced life services, what the response time was, etc., what the average response time is, etc. From the date that they started these contracts to now, the average response time is significantly better than the state average. What we hold them to for our contract is 10 minutes. They're more towards 6, but anything that's over 10 is something that we discuss in our monthly meeting, because those are, above and beyond what we find acceptable. But they are very few and far between, and we go over them and how that happened each month. But you could reach out to me if you have any questions on EMS.
Good evening. My name is Lee Robinson. I live at 825 Berkeley Avenue. And the first thing I wanted to say is I appreciate everyone coming out and answering questions. It's good to see a lot of neighbors and friendly faces here. I did want to follow up on one question that Richard brought up earlier about the deer population in Plainfield. And I think just for a point of clarification, given your response, Mayor, it sounded like what I couldn't tell was if there was no jurisdiction for us to have a plan for culling the deer population, or if it was just contingent so we didn't have one, or if the county was responsible, so then whatever bow hunting was happening in the winter months was it. And the only reason I'm asking this is I grew up in Montana, moved to New Jersey a few years ago, and if you don't have a natural predator, which we didn't at the time in a small city, they have a tendency to get diseases, and then at one point you can have a booming population, and then they all kind of disease at once, and it can be a problem. And I just wanted to know if there was any long-term plan, or if there are wildlife officers in Union County who take care of the population.
The reason it's the county's responsibility is because the culling happens in the only county parks that are in the city. The properties that are owned by the county, namely Cedarbrook Park and Greenbrook Park. And I think they used to be some at one point in the area of Peterson Farm. I'm not sure if that still happens, but it's done by the county because it's always county properties where this occurs. We don't have parks in the city where we can conduct that kind of an operation. And by we, I am talking about the city of Plainfield. So we have no other program that I can point to that would help us to control their population other than the culling that is done by the county. Now, if there's anyone in this audience who knows of other methods that can be used that the city can entertain, we will gladly entertain any and all methods that can be safely carried out by the city. Because I am one of those individuals who would like to see reduce their population because of all the issues that we are aware of, the complaints that we get from our residents, and anything that we can do to control their population. This administration is willing to entertain.
Is there a target population thinning, or I just was wondering about that, because one of the issues that I've seen is when I'm walking, I take frequent walks around the neighborhood, I see some of our neighbors feeding the deer. And I'm a little surprised by that because I don't think of them as pets, but apparently that is something that is like, so I don't know if a public health campaign or like some sort of outreach, or is there a target population where if we don't, I don't know, I'm just confused.
Now, when you say target population, what do you mean?
Is there a target thinning population that the county holds? So it's like, the X% of the whatever, like we know the population is X, can we cut it down to X here? Because it's definitely increasing just by, casual observation, which is not scientific.
I don't have the answer. County Commissioner Rebecca Williams will try to get us more information on that question.
Yes, okay, we can go online. There are there are 4 here from the same person that are kind of back to back, so I'm going to read them all. I'm assuming they're all related. What is the update with College Achieve? They're currently under investigation by the state. Why are we moving forward with allowing them to expand? The community was told that charter schools would offer a better choice for our children, and graduation rates was the metric used to show they are doing better, but test scores are the same. Finally, I'm having an issue with an Oprah request being responded to. I'm waiting on economic development, but I think that was taken care of today, so we can move past that. And then why can't we move forward with a rent control ordinance to give relief to people who live in the older buildings? We can start there and figure out the rest later. I could respond to the rent control piece. So I understand what is being said about, just exempt all the new properties that have the high rents and only deal with the older buildings. Our concern about that is, and we have a roundtable discussion coming up with some of the landlords of those older buildings. We're very concerned that some of these landlords will not be able to keep up with the maintenance of the building or keep the building to the standard that people are used to when they have this implemented. And so we have a roundtable discussion set up to discuss this with them. I mean, they are older buildings, so if a boiler is going to break, it's probably not going to be in a new building. It's going to be in one of the older buildings, and expensive things obviously tend to happen to older buildings. So they requested a discussion with us, and we're open to hearing what their concerns are. So we will be meeting with them. I believe the date is mid to late April in a roundtable discussion and see what their concerns are. We really want to make sure that we are not harming residents by then making these buildings in not good condition. Also, I just want to inform everybody that in this ordinance, there's also language talking about the smaller buildings, 4 units and less. And we are very conscious not to hurt Plainfield residents who happen to also be landlords. There are many Plainfield residents that are landlords of small buildings. In fact, I can't do the math on top of that, but 1,200 out of 1,700, more than 1,200 out of 1,700 are Plainfield residents. So what is that? 2/3, 3/4, something, And so we do not want to impact those people in a negative way by, they've invested in their own community. They live here. They're owner-occupied building, owner-occupied houses or small buildings. And we want to make sure that we are being fair to them. They're also our residents. They're also taxpayers. And so those are people we want to have a discussion with too before we move forward on anything. So there's multiple different facets of potential issues that we want to make sure are fully fleshed out before anything becomes law. And that's the answer to that. The things about college achieve.
Answer college achieve. Thank you, Abby. She did share those numbers with me, and so of the properties, 1,267 are owned by Plainfield residents. So to her point, not wanting to negatively impact Plainfield residents who own these properties is of concern. And then there's another 270 of the buildings that are 5 or more units that are also owned by Plainfield residents. So they're being very cautious in making sure our Plainfield residents aren't being impacted, and thank you for providing that data.
Yes. And so things are not always as they seem on the surface. We want all voices to be heard. And so it's not just waiting to hear from the state, but we want all voices to be a part of the conversation. As far as college achieve, the only response that I will give, and I don't know if our director has any other information, but regarding any state investigation, we don't get involved, we don't comment, that's not for us. And so any investigation that is supposedly happening, that's not for us. We don't get involved with that.
To the rent stabilization issue, I think just like a homeowner, we don't want our taxes to go up 2%, 5%, or have a drastic increase. I think we have to think about renters the same way. We can't just say that because this person is an owner and a resident of Plainfield that it's okay to throw $800, $500, $200 to a rental property. So I feel like other towns like Edison, Newark, they have a percentage, and I think it would only be fair to cap it because it is pretty ridiculous. And getting New York renters, they are used to paying a lot of money for a very little space. So it's okay for them to come and pay $3,500 for an apartment. It's not okay for people who've already been living here to have such a drastic increase.
We will take input from all sides. You made some very valid points. We respect the information that you shared, and we will give everyone the opportunity to get at the table so that the administration and council can hear from all sides.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for holding this forum. Very good forum. Michael Pine, 1100 Evergreen Avenue, Plainfield. I just want to thank Dr. Sessoms and Ms. Fields. I had an issue with a neighbor on the corner of Park and Martine. Constant litter, right? Beer, cases of beer sitting out there for weeks on end. And so I did call inspections, and they eventually came, and then it was taken care of. Thank you, Mr. Lewis and team. But my problem with that is it's habitual, and I shouldn't have to report it, monthly, whatever case. So is there something in place with the city to notify either the homeowners or landlords to make sure their tenants understand not to litter, right? Or, even having the right, whether it's garbage cans and so on. And I do know that, Ms. Field, when you respond to my email, you uncovered other things, right? They had a sofa that I didn't even know that was going on. So I think the city, spring is here, right? Tomorrow's first day of spring. We have a beautiful city, okay? But we need to make sure that others that come into our city maintain it. Thank you. So I'm not sure if the question was answered as far as do we have a program to notify either new tenants or new landlords of what the policy is or what they should be doing with their tenants. Someone also asked about the, pulling back their garbage receptacles and recyclables. Is that something that we send out to all our new
So I'm just gonna respond about the property maintenance. So in terms of property maintenance, whenever we have, for example, a landlord that may be looking to rent out a property, they are notified of the property maintenance requirements. We also talk to the tenants if there's any changes that they have. It's published on our website. What we have started doing, and we will do in the spring, for example, particularly in our downtown area, partnering with our special improvement district, we are going to have inspectors walk around and talk to some of the business owners and the property owners where we're seeing debris where people might be dumping on their sites.
As far as notification, that's what's very important about these town hall meetings. I just took a note, I think we're going to include a little something in our mailers to just make people aware. When we do get calls for new cans or new customers, we do give them a do's and don'ts kind of little flyer. We're going to be looking at a lot of different things. One thing I want to add with litter though, short-term things like this, but I got a long-term plan that we're working with the schools because it's very important to teach the young kids, the little ones, on how important it is to pick up paper and stuff. So this Earth Day, we plan on having something at the transfer station for first graders, second graders, to kind of plant the seed that, you know, the environment's very important, and the papers that they see on the ground that maybe their mommies and daddies or their friends are throwing there, it's not good for the environment, and I want to show them the facility and where all that stuff ends up. So I'm hoping that will plant the seed long-term where we wouldn't have such large issues with litter. But we all know it's a problem, and a lot of times it's the adults that are doing it. It's just very, very, can't find the word, but at least I can't say it publicly.
And in terms of litter and things being dropped on the ground, I was in a part of the second ward a little while ago, and this homeowner talked about those newspaper ads that you oftentimes find at your doorsteps that you didn't ask for, you don't look at, and they become litter or mulch. And so the only way to stop that, because these companies have a First Amendment right, there's a phone number on those bags. If you call that number, they will stop placing those paper ads at your door. So I encourage you to call that number that is on the bag, and you will not receive those ads anymore. I used to get them. I haven't gotten those in years because I made that phone call. So I encourage you to do the same. And that will go a long way to help. Next question.
Hi, I'm Sandy Gronkowski. I live on 706 Leland Avenue, just down from the Cook School. And I have several comments. With the deer, I actually went online and did some hunting a few years back, and there was a report of research being done for birth control with the deer. And it was happening in one of the more wealthy towns, perhaps, and I wondered if maybe, if it's still ongoing, could investigate how it was being done. Because though we don't have a county park maybe close to me, the deer think mine is. I've had 10 and 12 there. I've had little babies born. Had someone come in and say, hey, you know, we got some deer right up against your foundation here. And I think they just think it's where they have to come all the time now, and I shoo them out, but what can we do? In reference to the food recycling, I've read that in New York City, in some of the areas, they have a composting thing where people have a bucket, they can put the food waste that they would throw out, maybe it's rotten or something, and they put it in for composting. And I don't know, does the city compost the leaves and grass that people throw out, because maybe it'd be a way of doing it. I have a bucket I keep stuff in. I have a neighbor who composts and has something to do it. She has a gorgeous garden, I gotta say. I just don't have the energy to turn it. Okay, let's see, that was composting, that was deer. I grew up in a little town of 1,000 in Maine. We didn't have a street light or a stop sign, but we had a lot of intersections. And it was just the rule. The car on the right goes and you go around that car, that car, that car, that car. And maybe we need to teach people how a four-stop intersection should be handled. Maybe, not really realizing. And in reference to the litter, you're right, not far from the train station, and by the type of litter, things that had probably illicit drugs, tobacco, whatever, and I am out and cleaning it out on a regular basis, but I can't keep it up. It just escalates. And in our little town of 1,000, from kindergarten right through 12th grade, we had to police around our homeroom desk. Doesn't mean you went there all day, you might never change rooms, but you were responsible. No paper, no litter around your desk. And a recess, I don't know if kids get recesses anymore, but if they do, we gave up a recess regularly every few months and had to police the school grounds. Each class had an area. They had to make sure it passed their homeroom teacher's inspection. And I don't ever remember litter being on the streets of my hometown. And I don't think we really had anyone going around cleaning anything up. The best they did was to clean up the excess sand after a winter of a lot of ice and snow. So I just think maybe if we could teach our kids, and maybe they'd teach their family members who didn't grow up with it, to not litter. Thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we thank you as well. And for those of you asking questions, wait until the microphone gets to you before you speak, because people are not able to hear you online.
Yes, the city of Plainfield, all of the debris that's collected in the curbside collections that Mr. Dabb and his team does comes to our facility along with residents from surrounding towns to drop off the debris at the transfer station at Rockhead. All of that goes to the county facility and 2 or 3 other disposal sites for composting. We do keep a small amount at the transfer station. That's one of the programs we're going to start off in our spring, where residents can come and get free compost as much as they want.
I'm going to go ahead.
And in regards to the 4-way stop signs, ma'am, you're 100% right. The car on the right always has the right of way. We've sent that out over social media. You've talked about it online. We'll send that information back out again, but you are right about that. And it's something that needs to be done, so we'll do
it. And we're getting close to the 8:30 hour, so keep your questions brief and avoid those lengthy comments.
Hi, my name is Yoga. I'm the owner of Bill's Internet. I was here in the last meeting. I heard about buildings and garbage and new restaurants, but I didn't hear nothing how you can save the business. They're here already downtown. Parking situation, because every 3-4 days the parking station, the pay station in the back, it's not working. People, they complaining, they get a lot of tickets. Actually, I got a ticket and I pay for permits every month. Because they told me the person who gave me the ticket, it didn't go close enough to my car to see my permit on my car. So I don't know what's going on with the development. I don't know what we're supposed to do. Because I did have a lady Saturday, she came at 7 o'clock. She placed an order, she tried to park in Front Street, there was no parking anywhere. She went in the back and she found parking. And I told her what's going on in the lot in the back. And she told me, she was like, if I don't find a parking in Front Street, and if I'm not allowed to park in the back, I'm just gonna continue going. I'm not gonna stop for the business, because it's convenient. She's like, I told her that it's gonna be a lot behind Supremo, and she was like, I don't have time to waste to go park behind Supremo. Every day the store's closing. Every day people complain they don't have money to pay their rent. The landlords don't want to hear nothing about it. Parking, they don't want to hear nothing about it. So what's the situation? What do we have to do to stay in business? Because my next step, if I don't get no answer, I'm going to call the news to come downtown and see what's going on.
Well, thank you for your question and your concerns as far as parking on Front Street. I suspect that those vehicles that are parked on Front Street are patronizing the businesses that are on Front Street. And that person who couldn't find a park on Front Street, and you suggested the person go to the back lot, parking on Front Street's very limited. So the people who are parking on Front Street, they're parking there, they're going to the businesses that are on Front Street. And so there will be times when they wouldn't be able to find a park because people are patronizing the businesses that we want them to do. And so that's one of the reasons why we have the other lots in the back of the stores. So we want to encourage people to use the lots that are in the back of the stores as well. Whether it's lot 8 that's behind the food store, behind the charter school, whether it's the one behind marijuana's or the one behind your establishment. We really want people to park in the lots if they can't find a park on Front Street and walk for 2 or 3 minutes to patronize the stores.
The lot behind my restaurant is supposed to start building soon, so it's not going to be no light back there. Right?
We have a plan for that, and the director can speak to that when that project does get started.
In the interest of time, I'm going to move to an online question. Will the city work more diligently with the state on enforcing the owners of the older apartment buildings about the upkeep of their apartment buildings? So I could partially answer that. That we learned a lesson in the past few years, which was not to rely on the state for inspections, even in buildings that they're responsible for inspecting. And what we did with that information was we created an ordinance that will give us the right to inspect every unit every other year. So odd years, some units, even years, the others. And this way, we have our eyes on, the state hopefully also is doing their due diligence, but even if that happens to fall by the wayside, we have our own eyes on each unit every other year. And so we've made a big financial commitment in our code enforcement officers. We have more than doubled the amount of people that we have in that office so that we could make good on this ordinance. And that is the way that we are. That is the lesson that we learned, and that is what we're doing with that information. The next one is just a comment, so I'm going to just read it. More enforcement needed at 8th Street and Central Ave 4-way stop. While it was needed, the number of cars that blow through or do a rolling stop still exists. So that's 8th Street and Central Ave. Thank you. We will take note of that, and we can go to that.
We're going to take this last question from the floor.
Good evening, Wilma Campbell.
Ask the questions.
Thank you. Wilma Campbell. I'll make my question brief. I have a very big concern about traffic and congestion. We specifically have a concern about South Avenue at Sunset and during poor visibility, it is very scary driving down South Avenue. Cars parked on both sides of the street and two-way traffic. It is very scary. I would be very curious to hear if you have any readout on any accidents that have occurred on that street, because it is very scary for new drivers, for old drivers driving down South Avenue. When the visibility is bad, if it's bad in inclement weather, if it's after the sun goes down, it's very, very cagey.
So we have a plan to address some of the parking issues on South Avenue because we have apartment dwellers that are not parking in their spaces on the properties where they reside. And so we will be addressing some of the challenges with the parking on South Avenue. Also, there's some buildings where there's parking in the lot, but for whatever reason, some of the tenants of those buildings, it is convenient for them to park on South Avenue. So we're going to be addressing that, and we are looking to address that very, very soon. We also have to monitor some of the apartment buildings that are charging people for parking in the parking lots. That's against our ordinance. You cannot charge your tenant for parking. And so that's another item, an issue that we are going to be addressing with some of the landlords. And we're going to send out reminder notices with reference to the code so that these landlords know that they cannot charge for parking. That's one of the reasons you see so many vehicles on the street. And also there's a lot of traffic from the schools that are there on South Avenue, especially at different hours during the course of the day. So we are aware of some of the congestion that is on South Avenue, but it's fixable.
So Mayor, just to add to that, we are going to be looking at a residential permit system. And what the residential permit system would allow is that it's not to charge additional to the residents that actually live along South Avenue, but it's so to make sure that the residents there do have permits that are available, and the residents that should be parking in their developments are actually parking there, and they will be penalized. But we're gonna do outreach coming up this spring to hear more about where the issues are and understand, and from you, the residents, how you would like the residential permit system to work. Because we're not gonna be charging residents to have a decal to park on the street.
Who should the residents be contacting if they find that their landlords are charging them for parking?
They should reach out to economic development, go to the economic development page. You have my email address and a contact file.
And quite frankly, if we have to bring on a hammer, because their approvals from the planning board, all of that is a part of their approval, the parking that they're supposed to provide. And it's an ordinance that says you cannot charge for parking. So they could be endangering the pilot agreements that they have with the city. So just bring it to our attention. If landlords are charging for parking, please let us know.
Are there enough spaces for the new buildings?
Is there a question over here?
Plainfield is a sanctuary city, which has its...
And this is the last question, by the way.
Plainfield is a sanctuary city, which has its positives and negatives. Given that the federal government is becoming more aggressive in trying to round up people, does Plainfield have a policy for its citizens?
Plainfield is not a sanctuary city. Plainfield is what we refer to as a fair and welcoming city. And our policy is that we do not cooperate with the federal government, with ICE, with any law enforcement agency that seeks to target people in the immigrant community. If an ICE agent, for example, has a judicial warrant, there's nothing we can do about that. We can't stand in the way of a law enforcement agency that has a judicial warrant, which is signed by a judge. There's nothing we can do about that. But in terms of any cooperation with the feds on their policy of targeting people in the immigrant community, that's not happening in Plainfield. It will not happen, and we will continue to be a safe, a fair, and welcoming city. Yes, we have some final words before we wrap up for the evening.
I just want to thank all the residents for coming out, using your voice, speaking truth to power. Always keep in mind your council persons are here to hear your concerns, and thank you, Mayor, and members of your administration for being open to a forum like this, and let this not be one and done. Let's continue this path of being available and having these forums so the residents can continue to be heard. So thank you.
Well, I do want to thank you for coming out and for the many questions that you asked, and there's a lot more that we need to cover, and we would like to do that. So just stay tuned for the next forum where residents from across the city can attend any of the forums. And so again, we thank all of you for coming out. Have a pleasant evening. There will be a parade for the car. It will happen. We really are very proud of our Plainfield artists.